I've just taken down another 4 of my notes from my notice board. They're like life lessons or affirmations, things that I've learnt over the last few years in particular. They all have a similar meaning, maybe a slightly different meaning as we go through them. The first one says focus on what you can control, which is the inner state. So your inner state is the only thing that you have control of. People think that they have control over their finances, their job, their employment, their business. They think they have control over their health. They think they have control over their family. They think they have control over their children, their husband or wife. They think they have control when they're driving, but they actually don't have control of any of these things. It's just an illusion. The universe will give you control over a few things, or will give you temporary control over a few things, or basically it won't interfere for some time. It'll just allow you to think that you have control over things. So all those things that I mentioned and everything else in your life besides your emotional state, your inner state, the universe is in full control of for anyone, for everyone. So at any point, COVID or sickness or death can come along to any of us. So COVID hit a few years ago. A lot of people who their whole life had property, businesses, money, and health, it all was taken away overnight. So there are people now who've lost everything, had to sell properties at losses, and they were not able to, or some may have learnt to over this period, so it was a really good learning period. It was actually a period of spiritual growth the last few years, massive spiritual growth for those who allowed the growth to take place and didn't fight it. Those that fight it are not going to be in a good state now or in the future, because the vibration of the planet itself, being a living being, a vibration sometimes known as the Schumann resonance, which is measurable. You won't hear much about or anything about it through any mainstream sources, because this is the whole reason for a lot of the stuff that's going on in the world, is to prevent people's vibration from rising with the vibration of the planet it lives on. So by throwing things which we call negative at not just people but entire human population, it can put people into a state of fear and panic and depression, which lowers their vibrational state into the lower emotions, the lower vibrations. And I've spoken about the emotions and the vibrational frequency of each emotion in another earlier of my podcasts. So it's in the best interest of some people to not allow people's vibrational frequency to increase with that of the planet, because they're going to move into the higher emotional states of happiness and realization of what's going on, and they won't be able to be controlled, because people are controlled through the lower states, through fear. So if someone fears and in panic, they'll do whatever it takes and whatever they're told. Whereas if they're not in fear and they don't feel these external things, they're going to affect them significantly. I mean, they could affect their physical world, like finances, house, family, but what about the emotional state? So it may not affect them significantly, especially if they understand what I'm talking about, or it will affect them significantly, but through that process they will learn to manage their emotions and understand energy, because emotions are just very powerful energy. So you start learning about energy, and then these sort of situations that are thrown at us constantly, we'll be able to deal with them better and not be triggered as deeply into such a low emotional state, like all the way down to, for instance, depression, anger, and fear, we might not be knocked down so low as in the past, and also we'll be able to return to our neutral state or normal inner state, or the state we'd like to be in, quicker. So instead of being down for a week or 2 weeks, it might take you a day before you go back to your teachings, focus on what you can control, the inner state, and understand what the teaching is about, and then be able to self-talk or meditate. Some people prefer to meditate. I like to just self-talk, talk myself through it. For instance, if something terrible was to happen, I would explain to myself that everything happens for a reason. There's a higher purpose for everyone. So we as humans, being a soul in a human body, operating through our brain rather than our heart, which are energy centers or chakras, we'll be thinking that they'll be causing the panic. They're thinking, overthinking, oh, what about the future? Well, this happened to me in the past. What am I going to do in the future? So then in the now, we just in a totally low frequency state, angry at the past, for instance, and shit scared about the future. But if you realize that we as souls are actually in charge, and our information comes through the heart chakra, which is intuition, then you'll realize, okay, so I'm a soul just having this temporary experience in a human body to experience this third dimensional or physical planet for this lifetime and possibly future and past lifetimes. But look, we're just focusing on the now, today, and then you can say to yourself, well, today I want to do some things I enjoy, even though I've got all this stuff happening around me. It's not actually happening to me. These are things that are happening, and I make the decision on how I want them to affect me. So I can just roll with them, realize that this is a process I need to go through, and just flow with it and not fight it, because it will end eventually, whether it be next week, a few years. It varies for each person. So if you think of it that way, then you're not letting it affect you so much, as in the human experience is not being affected so much. So I'll go on to the next little life lesson, which is pretty similar, just explained in a different way. Sometimes I'll put it in many ways so it really sinks in. So my internal condition is unaffected by external situations. Okay, so I do have a picture, a little sketch on my notice board of a little soul, just done it as like a little Casper ghost, and around it there's a tornado spinning, and the soul is in the center of this tornado. Everything's spinning around it. The stuff spinning around it is their life, family, the bills, work, fear, the mainstream media, and fear propagated about COVID, about wars, cancer. So this is all spinning around them, but they're not in it. So they're not spinning with it. So like I was saying in another video, they haven't jumped into the stream, the rapids, okay? Or if they do, they'll just relax and flow with it, not fight it. But in this case, I've used a tornado in this picture. So they're sitting in the middle smiling and watching all this stuff happen and realizing it's not happening to them as a soul. It's happening, and they can decide how they want to react to it. So things might be happening to the physical body: sickness, tiredness, insomnia, depression. But the soul itself realizes it's not happening to the soul, because we are the soul. It's happening to our suit of armor, which is the physical body or the vehicle that we climbed into before we were born, and we will get back out of after the physical body has run out or has done its mileage. Just like you jump into a new car, you'll drive it for many, many years, some people their whole life. if it's a car that really lasts. And one day they'll have to jump out of that car because it will break down. So our physical body is the same. It will break down one day, sooner or later, depending on many things, how you look after it, your DNA, the way you think, and conditioning. So if conditioning says that most people are going to get a disease or something around the age 60, 70 and probably die by 80, 90, that's probably what will happen because you've already programmed that into your DNA by believing it. So all your beliefs, millions and millions of them, from the time you were born and before, from the time you're born, your parents saying don't do that, or you have to eat these food groups, or brush your teeth with this because the fluoride's good for your teeth, and millions of them. These are all layers of, we can just call them layers, which are layered over the top of your soul. So your soul comes in, has got some previous conditioning, but let's forget about that. Let's say it comes in as a clean slate, which I think some psychologists say or have said in the past, which is not actually the case. But okay, so it comes in as clean as it can, and then it's layered, all these layers of beliefs, conditioning, things you've read, the whole school system, mainstream media, some religions, and then that becomes who you are whilst you're operating through the human body, but it's not who the soul is. So you might get to a point, or a lot of people don't, and that's why they have to keep coming back and having lifetime after lifetime. But you might get to the point where you realise, hold on, some of this stuff I taught was rubbish. I got taught was rubbish, and I'm holding on to all this stuff from the past, things that have happened to me. They were in the past. That's history, but I'm still holding on to those emotions from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So I brought them into the now. But that event finished a long time ago, whatever happened to me. So it's a matter of learning to, because that, whatever you're feeling now, anger or about the past, that's another layer of fear which prevents you from being your full self or your reaching ultimate potential as a soul, not as a human. Because as a human, your ultimate potential you may think is 10 mansions and own a business and have a yacht and car. But your soul doesn't give a shit about any of that. All your soul is interested in is development of the soul itself, expansion. So if you're living your life according to the physical dream that we've been told about goals and so on, that worked in the past, but due to the high frequency of the planet now, it's not working so well for people. People are seeing that everything physical is crumbling as it's meant to, and that's why I haven't panicked much at all through COVID. Okay, so everything's physical is crashing because your soul's saying, okay, I've had enough of this crap. This is not the path that you were born to do. This is the path that you were conditioned to do by people, parents, school, the pop stars driving, this, that, and the other, and movie stars. So now you've reached a vibration where it's time for me to take over, because I need to put you back on your soul mission, the whole purpose you were born. And you might even have an inkling or an idea of what that is, because it's the thing that you always have been drawn to your whole life, maybe as a hobby. Some people, they've been able to make it their life or their business or their employment, but it'll put you back in tune, in touch, and in line with where you're meant to be. And this will happen for everyone on the entire planet over the next few hundred years, as the entire planet moves into the new frequency, a new energy, new dimension, whatever you want to call it. There will be there actually is already a split, and the old frequency of those that want to live in fear and stealing and control of people and all the low emotions, well, they can stay there. Yeah, but people are vibrating and have already vibrated out, and this has been happening ongoing forever. And some religious groups call it ascension. So if you look up the planet's ascension from third dimension to fifth dimension, you can learn about this. Okay, so back to our little diagram. It's got you, not in your physical body, you your soul, as a little Casper ghost, and there's a big tornado of what's going on in the world is around it. So all this is happening, and then it's your decision on how you want all that stuff to affect you as a soul. It might be affecting your physical body, and it is hard to stay smiling and in a positive state when your body's breaking down and you're getting disease. Some people can do it easier than others, but it's something to work on, and how you work on that is by looking at my next little quote here, which says dance in the rain. Okay, so it might be raining on a lot of people. I don't mean actually raining, although it could be, but it's raining low vibration situations that people don't really, as a physical body, won't want to experience. There's a lot of depression, suicide, anger, a lot of deception, a lot of manipulation, which result in all these emotions. So you feel all these things in your lower chakras, your lower energy centers. You'll feel anger when you're triggered by something that happens. You'll feel depression. You'll feel grief, sorrow, hatred. Okay, so that's where some people like to keep other people because then they will do anything they're told and be controlled. So when it's raining, it's your job. Remember, focus on what you can control, which is your inner state. The only thing you can control, we're talking earlier, everyone thinks they've got control over this, that, and the other. You don't. The universe, or if you want to be religious, God controls everything. It can take everything away. You could just drop dead whilst you're listening to this audio. That's how much control you've actually got. We can't even control the weather, let alone the entire universe and our lives. Although there are people trying to control the weather. You can look up HAARP. I can't remember the spelling. I think it's HAARP, weather control or weather modification. You can look a little bit more into that. Okay, but what you do have control of is what you've always have had control of as a soul, which is how you feel. So that's going to take a bit of work to get used to keeping yourself into a higher state of vibration, happiness, joy, gratitude for what you do have. And that's one you can look at. List all the things that you do have, like your health. You might have your eyesight, your senses, a good friend. Some people may have parents, some may not. Some have a mum or a dad. So some people don't. So if you've got a mum or a dad, remember, there's a lot of people that are orphans have neither. If your health is bad, just remember there's some people born without arms and legs. So look at what you do have, and then if that doesn't help because you don't have that much, think about those people that have already passed away or have less than you, and then you start to appreciate, okay, I do have more than a lot of people, and that automatically, that gratitude, which is a higher vibration, starts pulling you into that higher vibrational state. And then everything you do, well, I shouldn't say everything because that's pretty much impossible at the moment, because if you're working in a job you don't enjoy, that's a conflict with your soul. Obviously your soul doesn't want you to be there, but you need to pay the bills. So somewhere along the line there's going to have to be a trade-off, or you're just not going to be happy ongoing when you're at work. So somewhere along the line you have to move into what's in line with your soul. But it may be not that easy, and you're going to have to work out how you're going to do it, think about it. When the time comes, it'll happen, because the universe will push you that way anyway. But at least whilst you're working a job you don't enjoy, which I reckon might be about 90% of people, you're just a cog in a wheel. Even those that run their own businesses, you're just a bigger cog in a bigger wheel. Okay, so but you've got a lot more control over, or delusion of control over how busy you want to be and the time, how much free time you've got, and so on. Okay, so Other things you should do regularly is make sure that whenever you can, hang out with people who raise your vibration. So there are people that already have a high vibration. So these are the happy people, the people that are doing fun stuff, people that are joking around, not the serious grumpy ones. Okay, they're energy vampires, and they just live off other people's energy, like they absorb it. So think about your friends, family members, who is basically killing you. You know that they are, because when you're around them, you don't want to be there. They're negative, they put you down. They may be negative, they may put you down. They may be smiley and nice to your face, but you just get this kind of feeling that pushes you away, repulses you, or makes you feel sick in one of your chakras, like in your solar plexus chakra. Okay, that's your soul telling you, there's this person, yeah, they're wearing a suit and smiling and being nice to your face, but they have other intentions. So you can pick up on that if you are a little bit intuitive, and that's something to work on, developing your intuition. You can learn plenty on YouTube about that. But do things, be with people who are heading in the direction that you want to go, as long as that's a positive direction. Now, many people have said, and I haven't looked at the research, but it makes total sense because I've noticed it throughout my life, you become like the people you surround you with, because you've got all their energies, what they say, their influences around you a lot of the time. And some of these might be your best friends and family. And you've been conditioned that you have to hang out with your family because that's how it's been done for generations, blah, blah, blah. But besides your blood and your DNA, your soul itself, they might not be your soul family. Okay, so you have to understand things like that, because we've been taught about your blood, and blood is thicker than water. Oftentimes, people's blood do the most damage to them, the nastiest things to them, and worse things than a stranger they meet on the street, who they just drawn to. Someone you see in the shop, and you're just drawn to them. Okay, so there are people around that you've had lifetimes before, more lifetimes than your current family, and there are people that are called soul family. So you will automatically be drawn to these people anyway, but that's your group or pod that you should gravitate towards. Doesn't mean you don't catch up with your friends and family now and then, but you'll have this feeling like, oh, I don't want to go for this lunch, or I don't want to go for this dinner, but it's expected of me. Okay, well, you own your life, you're in control of your life. It doesn't matter what is expected of you. I mean, at work it might, because you'll lose your job. So the problem all comes down to this man-made stuff called money in that case. So if you can start to become self-sufficient, then you're not so reliant on money, and then you can make decisions as to where you want to work, if you want to work, and so on. That's where everything's heading, back towards communities that are of similar vibration and energy and self-sufficiency. But there are people that don't want that to happen, and will do everything they can to stop that happening, because then they lose control, corporations lose control, and profits as well. Okay, so work on developing yourself positively, work on your health, work on removing the low vibrational chemicals in foods and household products that you consume. Start changing to a healthier, lighter diet, and watch stuff that you enjoy. Watch stuff that makes you laugh. Watch comedy rather than, when you're watching a movie, rather than watch people blowing each other's heads off, and drama and family feuding type stuff. That's all feeding you low frequency stuff, horror. People, and even your music and computer games. Is it low vibration? Is it like sort of demonic type music? Because a lot of this stuff was all created for a purpose, to lower people's vibration. So if you're enjoying some of this stuff, okay, so you're in line with that, that could be a problem. So start looking at stuff that makes you laugh, and that brings you up into your higher emotions. Start looking at stuff that inspires you, For instance, if you like traveling, watch travel programs about nature and Himalayas or wherever. Okay, so analyze your whole life, pick out all the stuff that is low vibration, and work out how. Write down. This is called journaling, and as you journal stuff, it starts to sink into the subconscious and become part of you, rather than just think about it. Think about it's good, but it's good to also journal it. Just thinking about stuff randomly can sometimes just end up as a big mix, a big soup in your head. For some people, they might be able to organize their thoughts that way, but I do that. So I think I'm pretty much like I don't meditate, but when I go into deep thought about a specific aspect of my life, I'm in a sort of a trance and go into a bit of a dream kind of thing. So it's probably is a form of meditation, just the way I do it, although it's not intentional meditation like it's taught from a book or in yoga. And then all of a sudden, I'll just have this, you could say, intuition or inspiration to get up, grab a exercise book and write this bit down. And then some of those will become these little notes that I read out. Okay, so that last one was Dance in the Rain, related to the other two. And the last one here is, I'll just touch on this and get into it deeper in another podcast. It says, see the higher picture. Also, I'll say realize the higher picture, because some people might not even realize there's a higher picture. I've realized there's a higher picture for the last 10 years when I woke up to it. But we'll say see and realize and see the higher picture, the higher roles of you, your family members, people that you think are evil, governments, politicians, even dark beings and demonic type beings. See the higher picture, so see their roles, see their purpose. Because nothing is created for no reason. Who's in ultimate control of everything that is created and everything that is allowed to exist? Okay, so the universe itself, or nature. So it wouldn't allow things to exist if they didn't have a role and a purpose. And that role and purpose is also part of your journey and part of your growth. So if everything's great every day, you stay pretty much stagnant in terms of your spiritual growth. But the universe is always after expansion. The universe is expanding. Everything that is created within it, which is part of it as well, is also part of the universe. So it is constantly expanding. So to make people expand, it's not about just having the perfect life, every day happy, although that seems nice to us. We don't expand significantly that way. It's when we hit with low frequency situations from nasty people, narcissistic people, demonic types of people, we hit with this, we get knocked down. And as long as you don't stay down and end up, doing something like, some people do, commit suicide or get onto drugs, antidepressants, and not being able to get yourself back out of that, because that stuff keeps you at a lower vibration, and it's designed to, some of them. So you need to work your way back out of it. It can take a long time. But when you come out of it, you've learned so much on how to deal with this sort of stuff. And you get so much appreciation from life in general as you come out of it, that you raise up higher than you were before. So when you hit with these things again, it doesn't knock you down so far or for so long. And this process keeps happening, ups, down, up, down, up, down, throughout your whole life. But overall, you can draw a line that it aims upward. So you're always expanding. But what triggers the expansion each time is something which we may call a negative situation. But it's not actually negative, because it feels negative at the time, but it propels you into expansion. So all negative situations end up being catalysts for positive change. So anything negative, you will see when you look back. You look back at it and you go, oh, you appreciate that, thanks for that, because that has propelled you into such a much better life and way of thinking and lifestyle, and you feel the expansion. Unless you're one of the people that stays down and holds on to stuff for the rest of your life, that's another story, and that gets into reincarnation and coming back and having to redo those lessons again until you finally get it and learn that everything in life is a lesson. So realize and see the higher purpose, the higher picture, the higher purpose, the higher roles, not the physical manifestation, which is an illusion. Okay, so the body, the brain, we think, everything around us is a physical manifestation of energy, where everything plays out. So you got your higher roles and purpose, everything plays out on the physical plane, which is actually an illusion because we know it's energy, but it's a realistic illusion. It feels real to us because our senses are so low. What we can perceive is very little. Okay, so that one can get pretty deep. I'll talk more about that one in another audio. Thank you.